Hi everyone, it's Christy from Green Eyed Tarot. Today I'm here to film what I think is going to be a little series of videos that I'm going to do about cozy day decks. So I think I'm going to hashtag this cozy day decks or something like that. And because now is the time of year when I really dig into that cozy vibe. Winter's like my favorite season, and one of the reasons is because we kind of go into this hibernation mode. And even though it's cold outside, and that might not be something that everyone gets excited about, I love the sort of feeling of coming in from the cold. Like, so when it's cold outside, you come into your warm, cozy home. There's just like this feeling, right? I feel like that you get when you come in from really cold weather and you come in and you're in a warm home, right? It makes me really grateful for what I do have. I don't have like a giant home, and I don't need a giant home. I just need like my sort of cozy little corner of the world that I have. And so even the space that I sit in my home is in like the corner of a room. And so it's this cozy little, place. And so we have the holidays, we have Yule, we have Christmas, and it's giving me all of those cozy feels. And today is a Sunday. It's a quiet Sunday at home. I met my mother earlier. We went out. We had a little bit of a breakfast together. We did a little Christmas shopping, holiday shopping, and then I'm home now. So it was like something that I was thinking about, and I was thinking about what makes me feel cozy, like besides my home and besides sort of my cozy home and the home that I make here, what sort of makes me feel cozy. So I was thinking about one of my favorite things to do, especially in the winter, which is to visit the Metropolitan Museum of Art, really. So any art museum. I'm from New York. I'm in New York. I'm not far from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is one of the most beautiful, in my opinion, art museums in the world. And so one of my favorite things to do, especially in the winter, is to go visit the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And there's something about, again, coming in from the cold into the warmth of the museum. And even though it's so expansive for those who've been there and can feel kind of cold because it's so big, there's all these little cozy corners that you can find yourself in, and different wings that you can find yourself in. And even when it's crowded, somehow you find this solitude in the middle of one of the most bustling cities in the world. And again, for those of you who have never been to New York or have never visited, so where the Metropolitan Museum of Art is on the Upper West Side. So it's kind of removed from, a different parts of the city, like other parts of the city. But something, that I used to love is we would go to Bryant Park, which is all decorated for Christmas. There's a beautiful Christmas tree. There's a skating rink there. There's a holiday market that they set up. And it's quite a bit nicer than Rockefeller Center. Like Rockefeller Center is, where everyone goes. Bryant Park is a little more understated, but it's so beautiful. It's right next to the New York Public Library, the main branch, that is also decorated for Christmas with Christmas trees and wreaths. And it's just another place to get in from the cold, and is just beautiful, right? At this time of year, especially. So I was thinking about those days that I spent going to Bryant Park and seeing the tree, and going to the New York Public Library, and visiting all like the rare books room and the maps room, and it's just so beautiful. And then the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So today I'm here to feature cozy day decks that remind me of just wandering around an art museum on a cold, wintry day, just spending an entire afternoon wandering through the halls of a museum. And so I wanted to show some decks that sort of give me that feeling. So they have that, art, sort of high art type vibe, but just put me in that space. So then when I'm not able to get to a museum, I can still feel like I'm surrounded by these beautiful works of art. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm just going to take you a little meander, a little stroll through my cozy art museum of tarot decks, if you will. And so I've chosen some to kind of share, and we'll just talk about them. And again, it's a cozy day. It's a cozy chat. It's cozy day decks to make me feel like I am in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, like I said, on a winter's day. So I'm just gonna, in random order, let's chat about some decks. Let's look at some cozy day decks, some cozy art museum decks. So this is the Golden Botticelli. So obviously this would be one that would show up in this type of a video where I'm talking about high art type decks, right? This is based on Botticelli's art. So it's influenced by Botticelli's art. So of course this is going to show up in a video about art museum and kind of like art museum type decks. So this is the Golden Botticelli. This is, I believe it's a low Scarabeo deck. I'm pretty sure this is a low Scarabeo deck. So this is readily available, I believe. It has this really, really like cool gold foiling on it, on each of the cards. So, which I think is kind of neat for a mass market deck. But just look how gorgeous. Look at this strength card. Oh gosh, I love this deck. But this just makes me feel like I'm in an art museum. Every card pull feels like, right, like this work of art, like this amazing work of art. So every time I pull cards with this deck and do readings, it's as if I'm in an art museum. And like you said, you can see that gold foil, which like I said is it's kind of nice to have on a mass market deck. And this might not be like your art style. Like this might be, not something that you would, be drawn to because of the art, and that's fair too. But I do quite enjoy this deck. And like I said, for obvious reasons, because it's based on Botticelli's art. And so it's got that very Renaissance, right? Renaissance art feel. It makes me think of like grand cathedrals, and so this is definitely one of those cozy day decks, wandering around the Renaissance wing of the Metropolitan Museum of Art on a cold, wintry day. So that's the Golden Botticelli again. Just, I think, in my humble opinion, a gorgeous, gorgeous deck. So that's the Golden Botticelli. Let's see what we have. Let's see what I have next. Well, let's keep this theme going, and we'll go with the Golden Tarot by Kat Black. So this is the newer release. This was a US Games release. I think it came out last year. So this is an updated edition. It has new card stock. It is gold gilded. These are the backs. So it has gold gilding. So this is, like I said, an updated version. I think it came out last year, but it is different. So it's new card stock. So the first edition of this deck had like glossy. I didn't have it. I only got this when it came out in a new edition. So again, we're looking at some really high, we're looking at art. We're looking at existing artworks. The cool thing about this deck is that Kat Black took pieces of different paintings, different art, and pieced them together to create these. To me, that is amazing. I find this fascinating. I think Kat Black did an amazing job with this deck. And the great thing about the guidebook, I'll show the guidebook in a minute. It's a pretty chunky, hefty guidebook. The great thing about the guidebook is it tells you where each piece is from, like what painting it's from. So the painting, the artist, which again, to me is amazing. And to me takes tons of research. Like in my opinion, that's that would have taken a huge amount of research to be able to put these cards together and then, document where different things in the artwork came from, which pieces came from which paintings. So again, I think that is just amazing. And I think this deck is gorgeous. Again, very much feels like a walkthrough a museum, like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, like any museum that has this type of. And I chose decks from my tarot library, which I feel like it's probably because of the type of art that I like. But I'm thinking like people probably have like abstract art type decks and things like that. I'm thinking of like the tarot as color, which I really want. So I'm thinking of that deck, would be super abstract, or stuff like the Margaret Peterson or the Shimmering Veil. Like, obviously that would be like a different wing, right, of the museum. So I would love to see if anyone's inclined to do like a VR or to join in on this tag. I would love to see what, kind of like high art, like what would be your cozy day in an art museum? What would it look like, right? What are the artwork? What are the artists that you're seeing? What kind of wing are you going in? Maybe it's the ancient Egyptian wing, because there is an ancient Egyptian wing. There's the temple of Dendor, which is right in the middle of the museum. So it could be like an Egyptian, a deck that's sort of based on ancient Egyptian culture or Egyptian artwork. So, but again, this is the Golden Tarot by Kat Black. It's an amazing deck. And like I said, the guidebook really gives you, that information about the artwork. So it's in the second half of the book. It gives you so you get the sources for the Fool, right? So here you have The Woman in the Garden is Andrea da Firenze, Italian painter, Florentine school. It says when the artist was active, the name of the painting, and where the painting was like originally located. The Dog in the Cliff, The Silly Hat is an Italian painter, Sienese school. It says Avignon. It's called Saint Martin Renounces His Weapons. That's the name of the painting. And then the jewels are from a different. So just in the Fool card, we have 4 different paintings. So elements from 4 different paintings. So again, to me, this is a fascinating guidebook. Even if you don't know these artists, even if you don't, you have no idea what this painting is. Like, I don't know anyone who would know all of these elements unless you're like an art history major. And this is like what you've studied your whole life, but just to learn about it is amazing. So, and US Games did a great job with this sort of re-release of this deck with the newer cardstock. And like I said, the book is amazing and I find it completely fascinating. So just flipping through, like pulling a card and flipping through the book and like learning about the artists, again, is just like being in a museum where you go up to the little placards and you like look real closely to see where was the painter from, what years, were they active, when was the painting, when was the art created. So it's just like that. It's like as if you're stepping into a museum just by opening that guidebook. So that was definitely going to be one of the ones that I picked for this. All right, what else do we have here? Let's do this one. This one is an oracle. So here's an oracle deck that sort of is giving me my cozy day deck vibes for my museum. So this is the Hellenic Oracle by Thea at Garden Goddess Tarot. So this is obviously a Greek mythology themed oracle deck. So here we have Nyx. So they're all figures and creatures and places and mythological that are related to the Greek pantheon. And it's beautiful. So it is using existing artwork. So Thea used existing artwork to create, and then gave the titles, based on the artwork. Here we have Eros. So it's beautiful. It's such a well done deck. You can tell that Thea is passionate about Greek mythology and has lots of knowledge and experience with it, and has kind of poured all of that into this deck. But as well as that, it is also just a beautiful deck to look at because it is using existing artwork. It just reminds me of, so many of the paintings and things that you would see in the Metropolitan Museum of Art or other, really popular and large and well-known art museums. But this is a deck that, if you're interested in studying Greek mythology, I feel like this is excellent because there's a lot of cards in the deck. You can go really deep with it. And it's like I said, it's sort of a great standalone for being able to dive into Greek mythology. But again, also just a very beautiful deck. And again, giving me my cozy day vibes, my cozy day deck vibes, when I want to sort of just relive being able to walk around a museum. This deck gives me all of that, and it pairs really well, with other decks. But again, this is a great, I feel like some of these decks, obviously we want to use our decks and do readings with them, but I also feel like a lot of these decks are ones that I just flip through to admire the art, right? And just to give me that feeling of being in a museum. It's like I'm holding, with the tarots, it's like I'm holding 78 little pieces of art. So that's the Hellenic Oracle by Thea at Garden Goddess Tarot. So another one of my cozy day decks for museum wandering. My cozy day in a museum. All right, so what else do we have? Let's see. I have a few more. I think that's the only Oracle deck I pulled. So let's take out this treasure, Tarot of Persephone's Garden by Kara Small. Kara's shop is Chthonic Forest. I believe this deck is still available on Kara's Etsy shop. Here's the backs, beautiful pomegranates. There is also a Chthonic edition, which I do not know if it's available. So it's a darker version, more of like the underworld, right? The descent of Persephone. So again, we're looking at existing artwork. And this is some of my favorite art. Like John William Waterhouse is one of my favorite artists. I love that sort of somewhat gothic, like romantic, right? Very like the romanticism, that pre-Raphaelite is just so gorgeous. And it's like I said, some of my most favorite art. I have a John William Waterhouse book that contains just these full color pages of his art, and I, again, just love diving into it. So the same way I would take an art book off my shelf, these decks, give me that same feeling of just being in a museum and wandering through the different galleries and just seeing all of these, beautiful works of art. So this to me is like a cozy day deck that reminds me of wandering through an art museum, and also like just if I want to take out decks and kind of spread them all around, and just one of those lazy sort of quiet days where you're just able to do that, right? Where you're so grateful to just have the time, and have the decks to do that. It's just, it's one of those things to be really grateful for. Like I'm super grateful for quiet days, for cozy days just in my house, and for having access, right, to these little tiny museums in a deck. One of my favorites, The Tempest. I used to have like this over my couch in one of my homes one of the places I lived, I had a big like framed poster of this. It was a print of The Tempest. So beautiful. Also have this hanging. So this is, definitely some of my favorite types of art, and just a gorgeous, gorgeous deck for working with Persephone. Pairs very well with the Hellenic Oracle. Like, that's sort of a given. The Soul of the Rose. I'm so glad this came up because this is like my favorite, definitely my favorite painting of all time is the Soul of the Rose. It's so beautiful. Oh my goodness, the colors. So that's Tarot of Persephone's Garden. I mean, it's chef's kiss in terms of art, and again, giving me that cozy vibe of being in an art museum. All right, so let's do this one. Since we did Tarot of, can we just talk about this bag? Tarot of Persephone's Garden. Let's just do Tarot of the Huntress, which is another one of Kara's decks. This is, when I saw this was coming out, I'm pretty sure I let out like a shriek of glee because it's an ode to Artemis. So this is scratching my goddess itch, my goddess practice itch, as well as my love for pre-Raphaelite art, and love for wandering around art museums. So this is the Tarot of the Huntress. Again, I believe this is available. I will try to link Kara's Etsy shop. I believe this is available. Oh my God, the Fates. When a Wheel of Fortune is named the Fates, it like quickly becomes like one of my favorite decks. When the Wheel of Fortune is renamed the Fates, it's like I automatically love the deck. So, but this is again another gorgeous, using pre-existing art. Oof, look at that strength card. Look at that. Look at my bag. Can we just talk about how perfect this is? Yes. So again, oh, look at this. So this is a definitely a cozy wander through an art museum kind of deck. It's on the most delicious linen cardstock too. It shuffles so nice. And again, 78 works of art in my hand is just, there's nothing like it. It can be said for every deck, right? It can be said for any deck. And these just in particular just give me all of that cozy day vibes that I'm looking for. One of my favorite activities of wandering around an art museum, taking in all the art, talking art with someone, right? It's just one of the best cozy day activities. So that's Tarot of the Huntress, which is also by Kara Small. Again, their shop is Chthonic Forest. Okay, what else? Like, why does it seem like I have such a huge pile of decks? Because I do. Okay, so this one is the Yude's Tarot. This is unfortunately out of print, so I apologize. I don't always like showing out of print decks, but these are parts of my tarot library, so I figure I should definitely bring them out. The Yude's Tarot. This is a US Games deck. It was the US Games, so it was mass market. Like I said, it is currently out of print. This one is definitely more of like a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, like, clone. But something about it, I think because it has like a lot of the cards have like map imagery on it, on like a lot of the cards. So there's like maps and like medieval symbolism, and So it definitely just gives me like that sort of medieval art. So instead of being in like the Renaissance art wing, like this is more the medieval. So in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, there's a hall of armor. So there's literally just like horse armor and like knights, and they have their lances, like they look like they're headed into the joust. So it's the hall of armor, and it's got armor from all over the world and armor from all over time periods, but the big like sort of the main events in that hall of armor is sort of this medieval setup of armor. So this sort of gives me that vibes. It gives me the hall of armor medieval vibes. Like there's a door from like a 14th century castle in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And also there's an offshoot of the Met, which is the cloisters. So that is in a different part of the city. It's connected to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but it's called the cloisters, and that is filled with medieval art. So there's a huge medieval tapestry collection there. It's beautiful. It's in like they brought like pieces of like old like abbeys and old like churches and cathedrals, and they brought them to New York and like set them up, and like so you feel like you're in an abbey. You feel like you're in cloisters, and it's beautiful. It's near like Riverside Drive, which is a really beautiful area of the city. So anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but this deck, the Eudes Tarot, definitely reminds me of the cloisters, and definitely gives me sort of that vibe. To me, this deck is gorgeous. I tend to like, I'm a little precious with this one just because it is out of print, and this was gifted to me by a really beautiful and kind member of our tarot community. And so like I'm a little precious with it. I tend to not want to use it, but now that I'm like looking at it, it's so beautiful. Like to me, it's a really gorgeous deck. And I remember why I was so interested in having this and why I was like sort of always on the lookout for it. And then it was gifted to me. I mean, that's just amazing. That's just amazing. So it's going to definitely hold a special place in my heart, but it's also really, really, really nice. I don't know. Definitely gives me cozy vibes, cozy medieval art, this time walking around the cloisters. So that's the Eudes Tarot. It's by Susan Eudes, and it was a mass market deck for US Games, but it is out of print, so I'm sorry. But perhaps if you like it, you can kind of be on the lookout for a used copy of it. I know those tend to get a little bit crazy though. So another one that's sort of right along the lines of the Eudes Tarot is the Tarot de Marseille Waite. So this is another one that is definitely medieval, has the medieval vibes, like down pat. This is also a mass market deck. I'm not sure who publishes this deck. I think it's a French publishing. I believe it's French publishing, but you can get this you can try to get it on Amazon. Amazon France might have it. It is a French, I believe, publisher. But again, this is, obviously it's called Le Tarot de Marseille Waite. So it is Marseille style, Marseille coloring, Marseille-like images, but in the Rider-Waite-Smith system. So this one as well gives me sort of all the cloisters vibes. This is giving me that medieval art vibe because it's in the style of Marseille. So it's definitely giving me that like early medieval art, and like I said, the cloisters, which has the entire collection of tapestries. And so it kind of has that, in my opinion, that tapestry type feel, which I think a lot of Marseille decks do. It reminds me of the imagery that we see in like the unicorn tapestries, like the way the figures, like their faces. And so it definitely reminds me of, I love this death card. So the titles are in French, but it is definitely Rider-Waite-Smith's system. But to me, it has beautiful coloring because it's that Marseille style. But definitely gives me the medieval art. Again, the Hall of Armor at the Met. One of my favorite places in the Met is the Hall of Armor. And the jousting knights. So that's the Le Tarot de Marseille Waite. It's by Emmanuel Iger. Alice Laverty, I believe, is the artist. They're both creators. But like I said, you can get it. I think I got mine off of Amazon, but I believe it's still available, but don't quote me on that. So what else do we have? Okay, so let's do this. I love this bag. Let's do this deck. Again, this is another deck that's out of print. I'm sorry. This is the last, or I might be lying. There might be another one, but this is out of print. This is the Sistine Tarot. This is the Sistine Tarot. This is by Rose Bay Tarot. And it is, yeah, this is a gorgeous deck. It's linen cardstock. It's like the really like slippery, like you can fan it out. It shuffles so nice. This is a collage deck of sorts. I mean, it definitely is a collage deck. This to me like reminds me of like the sort of the melding of modern art and pre-existing art. So like the Renaissance art or like the pre-Raphaelite art, it reminds me of the melding of the two. So this is definitely, and also the backs, like the backs look like a manuscript, like an illuminated manuscript. There's so many examples of that in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So this reminds me of like being in those wings, like in the wing, that wing of the museum. Again, it's beautiful. These are, again, individual. It's the only collage deck I think I picked for this, but it's just because, like I said, it's sort of melding those two things. Like it feels so modern in so many ways, and yet it feels so vintage, and it feels like art from like I said, the Renaissance period or the pre-Raphaelite. So it definitely is giving me more of like a modern art, like being in that type of wing where it's melding those two things. There's definitely extra cards in this deck. I love this with see the castle, the sun. So this, again, this is a gorgeous piece of art that was created by Rose Bay Tarot. Again, it is out of print. I do not believe it's ever coming back in print, so I apologize about that. But I do not apologize about sharing it because it is gorgeous and it deserves it. And I feel like it definitely deserves its place among my cozy day decks for wandering through a museum. 100%. These are works of art that were, you definitely can tell were created with a lot of passion, a lot of dedication. So that's the Sistine Tarot. All right, I have 2 more tarot decks and 1 oracle deck for this cozy day decks tag. So, of course, no trip through the museum would be complete without the Noisy Museum Tarot by La Green Witch. This is the Noisy Museum. Again, it is a collage deck using pre-existing art that has been collaged together with other, I believe other mediums were used, different mediums were used. This, again, it, just like the Sistine, it's both modern and vintage antique, like old Renaissance type art, different styles of art. So it's exactly like wandering through a museum. The name of the deck is The Noisy Museum. And I think there's something to be said too about, there's a certain coziness to me, like with a crowded museum too. There are so many spots you can find away from everyone. It's like quiet corners and quiet galleries where you can just sit, and it's amazing how much silence you experience in a city that is like filled with people, and like in a place like the Met, which is, typically filled with people. I mean, we're talking people come from all over the world to go to the Met. So there's something to be said though for also that noisy type of museum that's sort of filled with people all doing the same thing. They're all there to experience the same thing, and everyone's experiencing it in different ways, and everyone's sort of there to like see specific art that they like, or so there's something cozy about the thought of a noisy museum, if that makes any sense. Like just that, because it's sort of the din of like people having conversations and about the art, and like, and having, and like reconnecting, like maybe they met, like good friends of mine came from Atlanta to New York, and I met them at the Met. And so it was like, we got to reconnect, I got to spend time with them. And also we were surrounded by all this art. So it like sparked all these conversations about the art we were seeing. So there's something cozy about a noisy museum, if that makes sense. And this deck is gorgeous. I believe this is still available, still readily available. So if you are interested in art and collage and the use of that to create tarot, I would highly suggest I highly recommend you check this deck out. The guidebook is like a digital guidebook. It doesn't come with a guidebook, but it's written like, the guidebook is laid out like a map of a museum. So it's really cool. It's just a cool, like I said, it's a very cool deck. It's beautiful. Again, a lot of work went into this. Not that a lot of work doesn't go into most tarot decks, but I can really appreciate just the choosing the art and the collage and the adding the different elements. And it's not something I can do. So I definitely am like in awe of things like this. Oh, look at this. This is beautiful. Again, that pre-Raphaelite art, I love that this has so many different styles of art, but this one is just beautiful. And it has the symbols. So it has the symbol for what it is. So this would be like the 6 of Pentacles. So it tells you, here's the sorceress, that's the high priestess. So it has like the elemental symbol for the suit, and then like the P would be the page. So yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, I love this. Again, so that's the Noisy Museum. I highly recommend you check it out if you've never heard of it, or if you've never seen it, or to just take a gander at it because it's beautiful. All right, what do we have? So I have 2 more. This is an oracle deck. This is the Oracle of the Grail Code, which I've had this deck for a long time. Amy Sophia Marashinsky. That's the same creator as the Goddess Oracle, I believe. This is Insight, Wisdom, and Guidance from the Grail. It comes with this hardcover book. I think this might be out of print. I don't know, and I apologize. But it comes in this, we have this box, which is just like gorgeous. The cards are ginormous, but they're like giant works of art. So the backs just say the name of it. Again, it's like hideous. I don't know why they would do this. I don't even know who, I've had this for a really long time. This might have been my first Oracle deck that I ever got. Yeah, it says Barnes and Noble. So this was literally produced by Barnes and Noble and published by Barnes and Noble. So that's why it's like ginormous and glossy and it has the names of it. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for this side. So these are huge. Some of them are landscape. Again, this is not so much about the car as just like ginormous pieces of art, right? So this is like any of the like the real religious art that we see, like all the Madonnas and like, you know, all of the paintings that we see with, this is definitely giving me, you know, those vibes of being in an art museum. Because obviously this is based off of pre-existing art. Love this. Looks like a depiction of Joan of Arc. So it is like just holding a piece of art in your hand. And obviously there's keywords on it. It all has to do with the Grail, like the divine feminine aspect of the Holy Grail. And so all of like the card meanings and stuff obviously have to do with the Holy Grail and sort of like the mythology around that and its connection to the divine feminine. But again, it's just beautiful. Like I said, they're ginormous. So you're getting, oh, I love this. Don't you love this? I think this is, what's the name of this painting? The Accolade, the Accolades, something like that. The Accolade. I think the name of this painting is The Accolade. I feel like I had like a print of this too. The Accolade. Anyway, it's beautiful. Oh, here we go. Here we have Venus, right? But like, it's gorgeous. And like this deck is so old. And like I said, I think it's out of print. I'm so sorry. Oh, there it is. There it is. In just big form. So this, you know, this was like why I wanted to get this deck. It wasn't because I really wanted to read with it. It was just because you get the Soul of the Rose in this giant format. So I could like put it on my altar, like just put it out because it's, I mean, it's gorgeous. So that's the Oracle of the Grail Code. It's probably the first Oracle deck. I think it might have been the first Oracle deck I ever owned. It was oddly enough produced by Barnes and Noble, as I was just looking, because that's what it says on the book. Amy Sophia Marashinsky, though, who, like I said, did the Goddess Oracle. This was published in 2006. So this might have been my first Oracle. I can't remember, but 2006. Okay, so the last deck, I think I saved the best for last. This is the Revival Art Tarot 2nd edition. This is by Taroko Studio. This is probably the most beautiful tarot deck I own. I would have to say, probably hands down, it's the most beautiful that I own. In terms of, I don't know, just the size of it, the production, the matte cardstock, and of course, the art is, you know, goes without saying. So again, this is the Revival Art 2nd edition. This is a museum in a box. Like, this is, to me, museum in a box. And it reminds me of so many of the galleries that you walk through at the Met. Flemish artists and, you know, definitely the Flemish, like that type of art. And again, like Renaissance art. So you're definitely getting a mix, you know, of those Italian, French, like I said, definitely sort of that Flemish style and like school of art. But these are, and I love how it has like the borders. It reminds me of the big gilt, like heavy gilded like frames that you see at the Met that are on the wall. But this deck is just stunning. It's stunning. Again, it's a larger size, so you can like see more of the images. And I love that the images go all the way to the edge, but there's like that, again, like that border that reminds me of the frames. And again, matte cardstock. The matte cardstock somehow just makes the colors pop. Like it's so rich, the colors in this deck. Again, this is the second edition. I think the backs are different on this edition than the first. I'm not sure if you have the first edition. You can correct me, but I think the backs are different on this edition. But again, it's gorgeous. It is just a museum in a box. So this is definitely great. A great cozy day just to flip through it. Like, don't even do a reading with it. Just to flip through. Look at this. Look at that. It's just so beautiful. But again, a cozy day decks for wandering through an art museum. That's the Revival Art Tarot, the second edition. Let's end with the Princess of Wands because she's so, look at this. Just gorgeous. So that's the Revival Art. So that's it. That's it for my cozy day decks for museum wandering. Just a cozy day spent, a cozy winter day, right? Coming out of the cold into a warm, like softly lit museum and wandering around with a friend, chatting about art, just taking in all the art, just a cozy day spent in an art museum, grabbing a little coffee, walking around, talking about the art. Like I said, that's one of the most perfect cozy days in my opinion. And these are my cozy day decks for that. So please let me know your thoughts. I would love to, if you want to participate, like I said, I'm just going to hashtag it cozy day decks, and whatever feels cozy to you, I would love to see what that is in terms of your decks spent in a cozy day spent with decks. I'm going to do a second part to this video, and I'm going to do kind of cozy day decks for, of like stories, right? Like stories, like a storybook worlds that we would love to be in. So a cozy day spent in another world. So I'm going to do a second part and do sort of my other cozy day decks. This is the cozy day decks for museum wandering, for wandering around an art museum. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them. If you're new here, welcome. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.